Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before starting the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and give this video a like up. The sun had barely begun its climb over the hills surrounding Hope Valley, but already the town seemed to glow with a gentle golden light. Morning in this place had a rhythm all its own, soft footsteps on wooden porches, the distant sound of a rooster from one of the outlying farms, the aroma of freshly baked bread drifting from Abigail's old cafe. Though the cafe had changed hands over the years, its heart remained the same. And that was something the townsfolk cherished. Elizabeth Thornton stood in her modest kitchen, pouring herself a cup of tea, as little Jack chattered away about a dream he'd had. He was growing so fast, too fast. She sometimes thought, and every new question he asked reminded her of just how quickly time was moving. That morning he'd asked what the future meant. She had paused before answering, realizing that the word carried a different meaning for everyone. For her, right now, the future felt like an unopened book. The pages still blank but waiting to be filled. She walked him to school, holding his small hand in hers, feeling the steady comfort of his presence. The other children greeted her with excited waves, eager to share their news. Sarah Lively had finally taught her dog to sit, and young Peter had brought in a perfect bright red apple to give her. These moments, small, ordinary, yet filled with joy, were the reason she loved teaching. That afternoon, after the final bell had rung and the last child had skipped out the door, Elizabeth lingered in the quiet schoolhouse. Sunlight streamed through the tall windows, casting long shadows on the wooden floor. She thought about how the school had become more than just a place for lessons. It was the heartbeat of Hope Valley's next generation. She wanted to see it grow, to give the children more opportunities, perhaps even introduce new subjects like music and art on a regular basis. But such changes would require help from the community. And perhaps from one man in particular. Nathan Grant had been walking his rounds, his hat tilted slightly against the afternoon sun. The sheriff's duties these days were more about community than conflict. Sure, there were still disputes to settle, a fence line argument here, a missing horse there, but more often than not, his role was about listening, advising, and keeping the peace. Lately, though, Nathan had been feeling something stirring within him, a pull toward doing more. He had ideas about improving safety in the outlying areas, about organizing patrols that could also double as community outreach. It was the kind of vision he wanted to share, but sharing visions meant opening up. And that wasn't always easy for him. He spotted Elizabeth just as she stepped out of the schoolhouse, locking the door behind her. Their eyes met across the street, and for a heartbeat, it was as if the town faded into the background. The clatter of wagon wheels, the chatter from the general store, it all seemed to melt away. Nathan crossed the road, his steps unhurried, his expression soft. "How was your day?" he asked, his voice carrying that steady warmth she had come to trust. "Busy," Elizabeth replied, smiling faintly. "The children are full of energy now that spring's here. I'm thinking of organizing a small play for them, something to bring the town together." Nathan nodded, and for a moment he looked as though he wanted to say more, but instead he simply offered to walk her home. The two of them moved through town side by side, passing familiar landmarks. Lee Coulter was out front of his sawmill, wiping his brow and talking animatedly to a group of workers. Rosemary was across the way, holding a bolt of fabric against herself and gesturing grandly to a dressmaker, clearly envisioning a new outfit for an upcoming social event at the cafe. Clara waved from behind the counter, and Jessie offered them both a cup of coffee to go. They declined, but the exchange left them smiling. It was impossible not to feel connected in a place where everyone knew your name, your family, and your story. Later that evening, a town gathered at the community hall for a planning meeting. There had been whispers of newcomers arriving soon, families looking for a fresh start in Hope Valley. The idea had stirred both excitement and curiosity. Some wondered how these strangers might fit in, while others saw an opportunity to welcome new friends into the fold. During the meeting, Elizabeth spoke about the school's needs, about expanding the curriculum and ensuring that every child had the chance to discover their talents. Nathan followed, talking about his ideas for community safety and how those efforts could bring the town closer together. Their words, though separate, felt connected as if they were already working toward the same goal without realizing it. Outside, after the meeting ended, the night air was cool and fragrant with the scent of early blossoms. The street lamps cast a soft glow on the cobblestones, and music drifted faintly from the saloon where a few townsfolk lingered over drinks. Elizabeth and Nathan walked slowly, neither in a hurry to part ways. "You know," Nathan said, glancing at her, "I think your play is a good idea. Hope Valley could use something to look forward to." "And your patrol plan," Elizabeth replied. "I think it's exactly what we need. Maybe we could work on these ideas together." He smiled, just a small, almost shy curve of his lips, but it was enough to make her heart skip. As they walked on, their conversation drifted to lighter topics. Little Jack's latest adventures, the stubborn fence on Nathan's property that refused to stay upright, plans for the cafe's summer menu. All the while, the unspoken understanding between them grew stronger. Across town, Rosemary was already buzzing with plans for the play, whether Elizabeth had officially asked her to help or not. Lee pretended to be exasperated, but was secretly pleased to see his wife so animated. Florence had already begun spreading word about the newcomers, making sure everyone was prepared to greet them warmly. Even Henry Gowan, once the town's most guarded figure, had offered to help repair the old stage in the hall. Hope Valley was, in its quiet way, preparing for something bigger than it realized. The changes were subtle now, a fresh coat of paint here, a new flower bed there, but they were the first brushstrokes of a much larger picture. By the time Elizabeth reached her home that night, little Jack was fast asleep, his small frame curled under the quilt she'd sewn years ago. She stood by his bedside for a moment, brushing a hand gently across his hair, and whispered a promise she hadn't said aloud before. "We're going to make a beautiful future here." And in the darkness outside, Nathan walked home beneath a blanket of stars, feeling for the first time in a long while that the road ahead was leading exactly where it was meant to.